Welcome to Passage to Profit. This is Richard Gerhardt.
And Elizabeth Gerhardt.
So glad to have you with us. Passage to Profit is all about entrepreneurs and intellectual property and the inventions that they bring.
And we are filming from the Gerhardt Law building. It's quarantine time. We're doing this on Zoom, but we have a wonderful show.
We don't have any employees in the building. Elizabeth and I are married, so we're allowed to be this close by law, I think. But everybody else in the firm is safe. So thank you very much for coming. And before we get started, I guess we want to talk a little bit about our guests on the show today. With us is celebrity entrepreneur Clint Arthur. Clint, can you say hello?
Hey, everybody. Great to be with you. Thanks for having me back. This is my second time here on this show, and I had a great time the first time, and I'm sure it's going to be amazing this time too.
It was absolutely a blast having you on the show the last time. We got into some really funky stuff, and we had some amazing content, so I'm sure we're just going to take off this time. But before we get started with Clint, we'd like to talk a little bit about intellectual property. And the first piece is, what is the Patent Office doing for inventions during the time of COVID?
Yes. So I read this interesting article. Let me find it. Oh, you said it earlier. So this was in the National Law Review, and it was written by...
Do you want to start over again?
No, this is good TV, really.
It was written by Chin H. Pham, and it was pretty interesting. So the Patent Office can do in the government, the Patent Office is part of the government, right? It's part of the Department of Commerce run by the federal government. That's why the patent system is federal, right? So if you get a patent on, say, a really great COVID vaccine, they can take it.
Right. Yeah, they can, as a matter of fact, but
But typically they won't. Typically they will let you have your own patent, but they won't. According to this article, they will not let you charge an exorbitant price for this vaccine. They say in this article that, for example, with anthrax in the early 2000s, do y'all remember anthrax, the envelopes being mailed to people to try to poison them to death? A pharmaceutical company had a patent for the antidote, and they were going to be faced with action by the federal government, so they ultimately responded by supplying it to the public, the antidote to the public, at a 50% discount. And so that's the kind of thing that's probably going on now, so that people who need the vaccine and need the cures can get them without getting robbed or going broke, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things that first of all, Gerhardt Law is, we've been besieged with inventions during the COVID outbreak. There's so much innovation going on in the space right now, everything from different kinds of masks to life science inventions for different vaccines, you name it. And so necessity really is the mother of invention. And we have gotten lots and lots of projects from people who are trying to contribute and improve things with the COVID situation overall. And in order to accommodate that, the U.S. Government Patent Office has actually created a special program for COVID entrepreneurs, which accelerates the time that somebody can get their patent or intellectual property granted if it's related to the COVID virus. So this comes to medical devices, masks, software, telemedicine, whatever gets connected to the COVID virus can be pushed through the patent office at an accelerated rate. So it's really an advantage for entrepreneurs. And if you are in the space right now, you really ought to take advantage of this program. Another thing, though, that Elizabeth was mentioning is that the government does, in certain circumstances, retain margin rights to acquire rights to your idea. So in fact, the government's never really exercised those rights. In the case that Elizabeth mentioned, it was just a threat, and that was enough to get the company to make some accommodations to actually give a price break. So the likelihood that the government's going to come in and actually, force you to take a license is relatively low. So that shouldn't be an inhibition to you filing your intellectual property. I think once the urgency around some of the coronavirus issues slows down, it'll be very favorable for people who are still working in this space. And a lot of the inventions that come from COVID can be used in other medical applications. So, so that.
And they can expedite the applications, right?
Absolutely. So normally it takes anywhere from 22 to 36 months to get a patent granted. If you're a COVID inventor, then you can get your invention within a year. So all good news for Corona entrepreneurs.
So invent away.
So invent away.
Unless, of course, you're trying to copy 3M, because that's our next story.
Right. And so 3M, actually, they've been selling the N95 mask forever. And once the coronavirus pandemic exploded, 3M found that their brand was just being destroyed because of all the N95 ripoffs. And so what 3M did was they went on a suing spree, and they've been suing people all over the country, and they've been winning. They've been getting preliminary injunctions, temporary injunctions for people who are destroying their brand. Now, 3M doesn't actually have a trademark on the word N95. You can't get that because it's a certification. But 3M has actually been very successful in policing their brand. And so besides the trademark, they're like using federal statutes. I won't go into them here, but there's lots of options for intellectual property owners, and it can make a real difference during, and they're smart to take advantage. They're donating all the proceeds from the lawsuits to COVID charities. So they're not just doing it for the money. They're trying to protect the integrity of their brand and of the mask. So
yeah, because that's one thing trademarks do. If somebody rips you off and makes an inferior product, and people think they're buying your product and it's a piece of junk, then that's no good, right?
Right.
So now,
anyway, that's it for the IP lesson of the week, and I'd like to get started with.
I'm gonna do my little fireside thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so people who've been following the show or who know me know that in the fall I decided to start a business, and it was inspired by Passage to Profit. And what I started was a video directory of businesses. Yay, yeah, right, Clint. And by going to your event, I mean, you had so many cool entrepreneurs at your event when we went there in September. So I started this in October, so go figure.
Oh, man, yeah.
So what I started doing was making videotapes of interviews that I would do with small business owners and ask them about their business, and then put these on a YouTube channel and a website that is a small business directory. Well, I was getting some traction, and then COVID hit, and it was like, now what? And then everybody got used to using Zoom. So I was like, well, I'm just going to keep doing it then. I'm just going to do it on Zoom instead.
Yeah.
And you know what? Right. You have to pivot, right? And actually that worked out really well. And I had started focusing on attorneys, but I opened it up to all businesses, honestly, because I was going to networking events and people were like, what do I do? I don't know what to do. And I thought, well, if I do this right, which I plan to do it right, this is going to be the way directories are done. This is going to be the directory of small businesses, and your videos will be on there. And Dara is on there. We did a nice video, and it's very similar to what we do here at Passage to Profit. I ask you about your business. I tell you, you got 20 seconds. 20 seconds to get people's attention. Otherwise, they're going to turn to the next person on the list, right? So we start out with a hard-hitting 20 seconds, and then we go into a discussion from there. The videos are anywhere from 2 or 3 minutes to 15 minutes for some people. And it's a natural discussion about your business. So I've gotten, I don't know, maybe 20 people on the site now. Actually, COVID has helped me with this business.
You got somebody from London yesterday, right?
I interviewed somebody from London yesterday. So we're going international.
So we're global already. So.
Yeah. It's so much fun, and I love it.
Yeah, great.
Great.
So yeah, everybody check out Fireside Directory. It's a great way to get the word out about your business, and great opportunity for your prospective clients to get to know you a little bit before they pick up the phone. So, and it saves you time, because instead of going to networking events and driving there and shaking hands, people get to know you before they contact you, and you can be in many places at once on Fireside. which you can't do without the directory, without social media. So it's a real time saver for the entrepreneur who wants to network. So.
Right. So the YouTube channel is Fireside Directory, and the website is fireside.directory. So directory is the extension. And actually, I do want to say real quick that this did grow out of Clint's conference, because I met somebody there named Sharon
Be
Wyeth.
careful, he's going to ask for royalties.
No, my conferences are open entrepreneurial marketplaces and conferences, so I'm not asking for any royalties.
So I
met Sharon Wyeth, the naming expert.
Yes, and I had a session with her where we kind of brainstormed what I could do for my own business. I got so excited at Clint's event. It's like, I really got to have something of my own. And I went on the back burner. I woke up at 4:30 in the morning 2 days later, and I had it. Video victory.
That's
There
great.
you go. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Congratulations.
So Clint, you're in the business of creating celebrity entrepreneurs, and you've been very successful at that. You've written a number of books, and I'm currently working on The Last Year of Your Life. Or did I say that correctly? Yeah. So absolutely very interesting. Got me thinking about, well, what's really important to me? What's going to bring me the maximum happiness? I just finished the Income Doubler, and as you know, it was a great tool, very helpful for me to help take Gerhardt Law to the next level. So tell us, what are you telling entrepreneurs now and celebrity entrepreneurs in the time of COVID?
Now more than ever, who you are is more important than what you actually do, because you talked about how your directory helps people get to know you and who you are, what you do, how you can help them. You talked about how 3M was keeping people from besmirching their good name, essentially. And that really is a factor of who are you. And I say that really when you meet a person, I know a lot of people in the audience are trying to think of this right now. They're thinking, who are you and why should I care? Why should I give you my time? That's the most important resource that we have these days, especially with the extra, where are we at, 3-point-something trillion in cash that's floating around allegedly in the marketplace, just poof, new money. There's lots of money out there. What people don't have is any more time. And so the reason that I do what I do is to help answer that question of who are you and why should I care, which is what every person is thinking when they first meet another person. And what I have discovered is that for entrepreneurs, there are really 5 great ways to influence who you are and why people should care about you. And I call this celebrity entrepreneurship. I've found people like Mick Jagger. Can you see? There's Mick Jagger. Snoop Dogg, Brooke Shields. Who's another good one? You know, to some extent, these guys, the Winklevoss twins. Yep. You know, who else? Joe Biden. I mean, the front runner himself, he's employing this technique. Anybody who is trying to raise their status in the eyes of customers and prospects, you know, Ice-T and his beautiful wife Coco, who you guys also met at Carnegie Hall when you were there, or Martha Stewart. These are all people who understand that who you are is more important than what you actually do. And there's 5 ways that most people who are in this high level game are trying to influence people about who they are. And the first one is going on media. The king of all media would be TV. Really, when you get to be big celebrities, when you get to be celebrity entrepreneurs along the lines, you know, let's take politics out of it, but I just want to say that before he became a politician, Donald Trump was a celebrity entrepreneur, the most successful celebrity entrepreneur of all time. He would get paid $1 million just to show up, talk for an hour in an arena in front of 10,000 people, and then go home. That's celebrity entrepreneurship at its finest, paying him for who he is more than what he just actually would do. So going on TV is one of them. And media as an overall category is another. That's why I have my radio show, The Greatest Show of All Time, on 77 WABC Radio in New York City, also on iTunes and podcasts. That's why you guys have your radio show, to create a media platform so that you have more status. Second way is to be a VIP speaker. That's why I host events like the one you guys attended at Carnegie Hall with Martha Stewart and Ice-T and Coco. I have another one coming up very soon. This one right here with Dr. Oz. Here he is, Dr. Oz and Dr. Drew. And if you were watching the Today Show on May 27th, you saw astronaut Mike Massimino talking about the historic launch of American astronauts on an American rocket going to the American Space Station, or the International Space Station. And astronaut Mike Massimino was on that show. You may have seen him on The Big Bang Theory. And on May 27th, you saw him on the Today Show. Why does he do that? Why does he go on there? Oh, because he loves NASA, he loves space. But more important than that, he loves going on TV, especially on the Today Show, to position himself as a high status person, an expert in what he does, a celebrity at what he does. And, you know, I'm paying him for who he is to show up at our event to take pictures with people. He's just getting paid money to just show up and take pictures with people. So that VIP speaking goes into the third one, which is celebrity attachment. That's what Mike Massimino is doing. That's what Dr. Oz is going to be doing at this event. That's what Dr. Drew is going to be doing. I've also have the Surgeon General coming. Jocelyn Elder. She was the 15th Surgeon General of the United States. Now she's 83 years old. She's in the highest risk category for COVID and coronavirus. And yet she's going to come to this event and meet all of the hundreds of people and take pictures with all of those people. So you got to wonder, is this really the coronavirus and the pandemic? Is it really about the disease, or is it about something else? Gee, I wonder. 83-year-old Surgeon General doesn't feel like it's dangerous. She's going to show up. Fourth way is to write best-selling books, and I'm working on a novel right now, and you know, hopefully that's going to really broaden out my career, because you know, I've been building my celebrity. If you go to Clint.com, CLINTTT.com, Clint with 3 T's.com, and check me out, see who I am and why you should care, you'll see I've been building my celebrity over the years, positioning myself as somebody who, when I release a novel, I'll be able to go on TV and talk about the novel. That's the theory. Hopefully that'll work out. And I'll also be writing another best-selling book this year called Wisdom of the Men. And that's about the lessons that I learned mostly from famous people. I was gonna, you know, it's really interesting, Richard and Elizabeth. I was making a list. This is how I write books. I'm going to teach you how I write books fast. I've written more than 22 books already since 2010. Okay. This is how I write books. I make a list of what I want to talk about, the topics. So in this case, I knew I wanted to talk about what I learned from Mick Jagger and Tony Robbins and Frank McCourt, my creative writing teacher in high school, who won the Pulitzer Prize for his memoir, and Ringo Starr and Donald Trump and Jimmy Carter and Dr. Oz. I don't know what I've learned from him. I haven't finished learning from him. I'm going to learn more from him when I meet him in person in August at my event, August 7, 8, 9 in Atlanta at CNN Center. See what I mean? CNN Center. And, you know, people like that. But then there were also people like my dad and my grandfather and my entrepreneurship teacher at the Wharton Business School, Miles Bass, may he rest in peace, who said to us, when you're an entrepreneur, you always have to be looking for opportunities. That's exactly how he did it, right? And it was funny then, and it's funny now. And then there was another professor I had named Digby Baltzell, who was a legend at the University of Pennsylvania. He taught sociology. His book, Social Stratification in America, from the 1950s, coined the term WASP, White Anglo-Saxon Protestant. He invented that term. And, you know, I've learned a lot of stuff from a lot of men. And I was making my list of all the men that I wanted to write about in my book about the wisdom of the men. And I realized if I only wrote about the famous ones, you know, the Dr. Oz's and the Dr. Drews and Buzz Aldrin, who spoke at a conference with me at West Point, and the most interesting man in the world, and, you know, Caitlyn Jenner. I mean, is Caitlyn Jenner? Bruce Jenner. I should put Bruce Jenner in. Bruce Jenner is in. Bruce Jenner, Caitlyn Jenner, right? That's another one on the list. If I just put the famous ones that I've met, John Travolta, who was vacationing at the Royal Hawaiian Hotel when I was there a couple of years ago. If I only put the famous ones in, I had more than 45 major celebrities, instantly recognizable names. So that's what I've decided I'm going to do. My book is just going to be about the things I've learned from super famous people that everybody knows who they are and is interested in. And that's the fourth way, writing best-selling books. And the last way is to win awards, winning awards, which is one of the reasons why I give awards at my conferences. And, you know, I want to recommend to you guys, you should give an award, like not just the winner, but the winner should get an award, like, you know, Passage to Profit Champion Award that they can use in their social media, on their websites. And, you know, just the way I have this logo with these wreaths, if you made a graphic like that and gave that to them, it would promote your show. You know, make sure you put it on Passage to Profit, iHeartRadio, WOR Radio, 6:10 a.m. Is that what you guys are?
7:10.
I know
7:10 a.m.
So WR 710 has actually been doing better than ever during this period. And they've been running our show multiple times because they like it.
Yeah, I've seen Mark Simone promoting the ratings online a lot. I'm following him on Facebook. I see him posting that all the time. And I'm like, I send those over to the executives at WABC. I'm like, come on, guys. Come on, guys. So those are the 5 ways. That's how I help people to answer that question. Who are you and why should I care? That's what I do for my own career. I'm a mentor for entrepreneurs. I help, you know, people come to me for a result, but what I really have is relationships with people, because, you know, the real secret of it all is that celebrities hang out with other celebrities. You've seen pictures of, you know, Ben Affleck and Andy Garcia and George Clooney and Matt Damon all hanging out together. If you look online and you search Ronald Reagan, John Wayne, and Frank Sinatra, you'll see pictures of those guys hanging out together. This is a marketing technique called celebrity attachment that's been going on since the beginning of Hollywood, since before Hollywood. You know, if you search for pictures of the founding fathers, there's paintings of them, because who else are they going to hang out with? Celebrities hang out with other celebrities. And as a mentor, I hang out with my celebrity friends because I feel, and Allie, my wife, and I honestly feel the rising tide lifts all ships. And the more celebrity friends we have, the bigger celebrities we are. So that's why we do what we do, and how I help people. And that's why people come to the conferences. And I'm really excited about this one that's going to happen. You know, when I did the conference at West Point, they canceled it on me. 1 month in advance, I got a call from some executive in the hospitality division at West Point Military Academy. He's like, sorry, Clint, I've been ordered by the top brass to cancel your event. I'm like, what? I got 100 people coming to my event. I got Buzz Aldrin, a West Point graduate. I got General Russell Honore, a 3-star Army general. You're canceling the event? I got to talk to the guy who canceled the event. It took me 3 days to get to the guy who canceled the event. And he's like, nope, you're out of luck. You're out of luck. And somehow I was able to pull that off. And now I had the whole coronavirus, international pandemic, and the governor of New York and the mayor of New York conspiring to shut down my event, which was originally scheduled for June 12, 13, 14 in New York City. Mm-hmm. So somehow I have managed to reschedule this event, relocate it. 7 weeks later, it's now going to happen August 7, 8, 9 at CNN Center in Atlanta. I got all of the talent, Dr. Oz, Dr. Drew, Mike Massimino, Jocelyn Elders, Patch Adams, the guy who inspired the movie, starring Robin Williams, Janae Noonan, world champion, gold medal, MMA fighter, female, and others.
So that's Clint. We got a break for a commercial message. So you're listening to Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gerhardt, our special guest, Clint Arthur. We'll be right back after this. All right, we're back.
We're back.
All right.
Hey, well, that was great, Clint. Thank you.
So I guess now are we on to our presenter part of the show, or?
We're on to our presenter part of the show. I hope you can stay with us, Clint, and help tease out of our presenters tonight some fascinating information about their projects. So
Yes, I have everybody in the order that Alicia put them, our assistant. So Ash, you are first. So what we want to hear from you is your 1 to 2 minute pitch, and then we'll have a discussion about your business. So
fantastic. Thank you so much, Elizabeth and Richard, for having me. And I'm here to talk about Etsy Trust Score. It is a startup company, and what we're really trying to do is we're trying to solve a billion fake accounts problem around the world, whether it's Facebook or other social media accounts. Our accounts are all over the place. Our credit cards are all over the place. Our names, our addresses, our passwords are all over the place. And what we're doing at Etsy Trust Score is bringing everything into one self-managed, self-directed online profile that people can use anywhere they go on the internet. All their digital lifestyle services can actually be run with the single profile that they manage, and they give permission to others to use, and they can turn that permission off. We are on a mission to fix a problem that's actually affecting our politics, it's affecting our society, it's affecting how we trust organizations and businesses, and we want to take control over our digital lives. Right now, it's all over the place, and I and the team that's working with me and with a lot of other people, we're going to achieve this.
So has the product been actually launched now, or is it being used by consumers, or?
Yeah, we're actually in development right now. So we're essentially developing our minimum viable product, and we should be out with this in the end of June, and then we will start developing a number of partners that will help us achieve this, because this is actually something that I believe across the US we need a lot of supporters and people who believe that it's about time for us to take control over our digital lives.
So let me just challenge you a little bit here. So when I go online and I click a button and I'm going to buy something, I get like an input screen where they ask for my credit card and my address. I click that, the browser already fills all that stuff in there for me already. So what's the difference between a browser that does that and your product? Why would somebody pay money for your service?
They will actually pay money for the service, and for the most part, actually, they will not pay us any money per se. They will actually pay money for the services that they use. But the beautiful thing about using our service is the fact that your information is not going to be sitting in the browser where it is highly susceptible to being stolen by fraudsters, and online theft, identity theft takes place. And imagine how many other times and how many other browser pages have your information. That's really where we're not really left with that sense of security. We feel at risk everywhere we go because it's all over the place. Your information gets replicated every time you share it. And we're trying to actually kind of take control of that and give you a sense of security, because once you have that information and it's basically protected, then when you go on these websites, you don't even actually have to give them the information. Now we have ways where we give that company a token where they can charge your card, but we don't give them your card. So that's the beauty of using Etsy Trust Score, where all of this information is encapsulated and you only give them what they need to process the transaction. So what you just described, Richard, is something I also see. I see, let's say, Google Chrome filling in all that information. It makes it a little bit easier, but at the same time, it's very highly risky for most of us. And that's what we're all at risk right now because of that.
So Clint, do you want to ask something? Oh, you're on mute.
Clint? Sorry about that. Yeah, I like to see products when they're more advanced. You know, I mean, ideas are great, and I do think this is a good idea. Trust is getting more and more difficult to achieve these days. A lot of my TV clients are going on TV talking about how do you know who's real and who's fake, and that's a big issue. It's a bigger issue than anything. I mean, and it's one of the reasons why it's more important than ever to be somebody, so that people can see you and know that you're real, because most people are very, very skeptical. This is a big, big issue, Ash. It's a great market that you're trying to go after. It really is, because, you know, your biggest problem, as Grant Cardone says, is that nobody knows who you are, and that happens on many levels. So I think it's a good area to go after. I just wish the product was more developed already.
So
Absolutely.
did I see on your website that you are going to be using the blockchain to manage this?
So the blockchain is a technology, of course, a lot of people hear about it. And what we're trying to do is take the complexity out of the conversation. You're absolutely right. So we store it on the blockchain, but from an everyday use perspective, for us, it feels like we go on abc.com website, we're trying to do some transactions, and then we activate our set score or our set profile. And with that information, we're able to transact, and then we close everything out and we leave that website without giving them anything that they will store on their own platform. Right now, that's the problem. Hundreds and hundreds of websites have our information and we don't have control over it.
So how are you going to get the word out about this? What is your marketing strategy? Because I agree. I mean, I'm terrified when I mean, I still do it anyway, but I hit the button and the browser populates all of that information, and I know that somewhere somebody could get at that. There's no doubt in my mind. But you're still competing with this, right? And so how are you going to distinguish yourself, and how are you going to get the product out in the marketplace and get people to use this and try this?
Absolutely. So our initial focus is going to be on membership-based organizations that are also interested in protecting their members. So we're trying to use multiplier effects by working with membership-based associations that will, once they believe in this product, they will actually help us spread the word to their membership base, help protect the information of the membership even more. And at the same time, one of the benefits of working with us will be with companies that don't yet have traction. They will come to us and have a base of users that they can reach to and help serve them, because they will actually come to the platform having their digital identity already verified, their digital wallet already verified, as well as their sharing economy reviews that they have given on Airbnb or received on Airbnb and similar websites. So looking at opportunities where we can partner with one organization and that organization can lead us to thousands of other members to gain that initial traction.
That's great. So unfortunately, we're coming to the end of our segment, Ash. How can people get in touch with you and learn about your product?
Fantastic. Thank you, Richard. So I think the best thing for people to do would be to go to trustscore.io, and that's when they can give us their email address, stay in our email list, and then as soon as the product is out, they will be one of the very first people to get access to the platform.
Great. So trustscore.io. Thank you, Ash. And now,
thank you so much.
Yeah, we're going to go to a break. You are listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventor Show with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart and our special guest, Clint Arthur, on WOR 710, iHeartRadio.
And we're back, everyone, and it's time for our next presenter. Who's up next?
Dara.
Dara, okay. Hi, Dara, you're on mute, so. Dara, you're on mute. There we go.
There we go.
Do you want to introduce Dara?
Okay.
Sure. Dara, I'm going to introduce you because Elizabeth asked me to. And Dara's a client of the law firm. She has a fantastic app, and we've had her on the show before, and we're happy to have you again. Tell us about what you're doing and tell us about your progress.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate being back on the show. Well, we developed the Blurb Spot app, and it's a location-based accessibility app. And with user input, locations or establishments that are sensory friendly, such have like dim lighting, low noise, wheelchair accessible, deaf friendly, visually impaired friendly, kid friendly, like a changing table in the men's and the women's room, can be blurbed about or cataloged to enable other users to know where the best places might be for them so that they can patronize as well. It's important for some people to have a working elevator, things that, you know, some people with non-disabilities might take for granted, adult changing table, braille print, Now that parks are starting to open up again, where could there be an accessible park trail or accessible beach just they can make an experience so much more enjoyable for an individual who might need it. And we feel that everybody deserves the opportunity to go places and to travel. And this is what we want to encourage, a more accessible world.
And one thing that's really great about your app is that it's user driven. So the people going to these places, like the moms of the kids who need special considerations, is putting the data in.
That's correct.
Right. So it would be like me saying, oh, I was able to get my mom's wheelchair through here. This is a great restaurant to go to.
Yes, that's right. And it's a positive review as opposed to negative reviews. It's something that we want to praise and encourage other establishments to become more accessible as well.
Great, great. And so where are you in the whole rollout process? I know that you're out there now, and how is that all going?
It's going well. It slowed down a little bit since we're not out at locations as much, but it's amazing how in line with how important accessibility is, and it kind of can relate to this COVID situation that we're experiencing. If places were more accessible, it would be easier for people who don't have disabilities or don't have special circumstances to be able to navigate now in this COVID situation, such as a drive-through experience. Well, let me get first, wider aisles in the supermarkets. They would make it easier for individuals with wheelchairs to be able to navigate better, and it would be easier to social distance. As going through a drive-through for an individual who is deaf, it's very important for them to be able to read lips if they might require it. And now you have someone in the drive-through who has a mask on. So now people are starting to make vinyl windows in their masks so that they can read lips and be able to communicate. So it's important that this accessibility is people are becoming more aware of it.
Well, you bring up things that I've never even thought of as being things that are important, and so it's really great that you've developed a tool that can record all of these advantages and share that information with other interested people. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And also one more thing, having more establishments with automatic doors would help, because it would allow people with wheelchairs to be able to enter into facilities more freely. And this would also mitigate the risk of infection, because we wouldn't have to touch them in this COVID environment that we're living in today.
Wow.
Right. So the name of it is the Blurb Spot, BLURBB. So
yes.
Word. How did you come up with that name?
Well, blurb it's almost like it's a short praise. So that's what I wanted to praise, locations that do have accessible locations and do have thoughtful accommodations for others, because, we can all be in a situation where we have a child who has autism, or we become older, we're all growing older, we have mobility issues or vision impairments, and we can all be in a situation. So it's just to go to an establishment that has thought about people, others, and that's made those kind of accommodations. It's a win-win, because now the guest feels welcome, and it's just going to increase their bottom line, especially since there's over 1.3 billion individuals with disabilities in the world.
Wow.
And you have this on Apple right now, Apple phones, right?
Yeah, so it's on both the App Store as well as the Google Play. You can download it.
Clint, I see the wheels turning there. What were you going to ask? Oh,
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
There you go. Sorry, I like it a lot. There's a lot of negativity in the world. Everybody, it's so easy for some jerk to say mean things about people or places or things. And I like how your reviews are positive reviews only. I think that's a really great feature and much needed in the world. And then there's a lot of people, look, I believe in going after broad markets. It sounds like from what you said, there's almost one in 6 people in the world have some sort of a disability. So that's a nice big market to go after, and yet it's still niche. So I think it's really good. How are you going to get the word out? How are you promoting your app?
Trying social media, as well as just continuing various market. I don't know. I'm happy to be on here, so I'm grateful to Elizabeth and Richard. But I'm open to different methods.
I mean,
Well, I just want to say one last thing. When I had a physical office, I used to have a picture of me on NBC New York with Chuck Scarborough with the quote, "The marketing of what you do is 100 times more important than what you actually do." You can have the best product in the world, but if people don't know about it, then it's not going to help. You could be the greatest brain surgeon in the world, but if people don't know who you are, then you're not going to be saving any lives. So, as great a product as you have developed, now is the more important part, which is the marketing of the product. So hopefully you love marketing, because that's what you got to do. Really.
Ideas for her, Clint? Do you have any ideas for marketing an app like that?
Well, I suppose that you are the app, right?
Yes. So I do try to blurb about places that we, patronize and encourage friends and family.
Why are you doing this? Why do you care about this?
Because I have 3 kids and I know how it feels. It's not easy to go places. And I have friends who have kids who are deaf, and, it's near to my heart, because everybody deserves to go regardless of what you might struggle with.
Do you have special needs children?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. You got to talk about why are you holding back on your own special needs child story? You need to tell your special need child story. So, my 3rd child was born, without a head, and it's really been difficult for me to be able to buy hats for this child. So I was looking for a headless hat store, and I couldn't find anything positive. All the headless hat stores had negative reviews, and that wasn't helping me to find a good one. So I don't know what your story is, but you need to know what your story is, and you need to talk about it. As soon as you got a good story, that's going to really help you to get on more media and start building up the credibility that comes with, you have to get on local media, because unfortunately the national media has very little credibility today. People don't believe what they see in the national media anymore. They call that fake news. So it's not so great to be on the fake news, but on a little local radio station like WOR, that's good. Okay. People believe what that's why WOR is doing so great right now. It's a local New York City station, and people believe what they hear on the local news, because it doesn't have the fake news national political agenda behind it that's driving it at the cost of all else. But so you need to know your story, and if it's your app, you're the app, you own the app, it's your app, then you're the face of the app, and you need to be the Steve Jobs of your Apple. Okay.
Gotcha. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
That's really great advice, and I'm listening, and I hope our listeners who have projects take it to heart and appreciate the value of understanding the why people are doing things, because it does give authenticity and credibility and everything that Clint just said. So Dara, so great to have you on the show again.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We have to wind this up, but can you tell us how people can find you?
You can go on the app in Google Play Store and download the app. We also have a website, theblurbspot.com. You can find out more information about it. And as well as LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, In-App Kindness, and the Blurb Spot.
Great. So everyone listening, go to Google Play or the App Store, download Dara Weislow's app, and they can find it under the title of The Blurb. Is that the name of the app?
Yes, the Blurb Spot.
So,
BLURBB.
So just search BLRUBB or BLUR. Well, just search Blurb with an extra B at the end.
Yeah.
Are you dyslexic?
Yeah.
Are you dyslexic?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
It's my secret. Don't tell it.
We have a lot of fun with some of the words he comes up with.
That's awesome.
Mine came out of my own story. You know, when I graduated from Wharton Business School, I went home to get the attaboys. And instead, my parents got into the hugest fight of all time. My dad storms out of the house, slams the door to the apartment. I turn to my mom and go, you know, Mom, the way he resents you all these years, have you been cheating on Dad? And I'm sitting on the couch where I grew up my whole life. And I'm thinking to myself, where the heck did that question come from? I never thought that before. And then I'm thinking, what kind of rude kid asked his mom a question like that? Imagine if one of your kids asked you that. And then I'm thinking, why ain't she answering the question? And then she goes, he's not your real father. Your real father was a doctor at the fertility clinic we went to for 6 years. And you look just like that guy. And not only didn't I know who I was anymore, which is a huge thing. Like, you can't imagine how much of your life is based on who you think your parents are, or who you think you are because of the family that you come out of. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up anymore. And I didn't know how to spell things correctly anymore. I instantly became dyslexic as a result of that psychological shock. And I was talking about it with a psychologist one time, and they're like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. So I can relate and I can sympathize, Richard.
Well, thank you. At least two of us in the world.
Or out of us in the world, anyway.
So this is Passage to Profit. You never know what you're going to get. And we'll be right back after this message.
So, welcome back, listeners. We have had, you are listening to Passage to Profit on WOR 710. We have had 3 presentations by excellent speakers. It's been a really fun, great, interesting
No, we
time.
haven't. Brian still needs
No, we had Clint. I'm counting him. Clint.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay. Clint, Ash, and Dara. And if you missed,
What am I, chopped liver? I don't count as a speaker?
then yeah, well, Clint's a speaker, but he still gave a presentation. So anyway, if you missed any of that, you should listen to it on the podcast when this comes out as a podcast, because it's really been a great show. But it's not over yet, because we have another really, really cool entrepreneur with a really cool idea. I love his thing. So it is my pleasure to welcome Brian to the show. Brian, can you please tell us what you're doing?
Well, thank you very much, Elizabeth and Gerhard. It's a pleasure to be back on the show, Passage to Profit. And I'm very blessed to reintroduce Dream Galaxy and share some updates that we've made since we last met. At Dream Galaxy, we believe that everybody has a story. And what we are currently focused on is being an educational platform for multicultural content. And the idea is that people are able to create and submit stories in their own language or reflecting their own cultures on issues or areas they care about, such as languages. We're seeing a lot of interest in arts education as they're being cut instead of the physical space. The online space is kind of replacing that as well. In higher education, there's definitely interest in policy kind of conversations, as well as technology, obviously becoming the new norm. But all these things, and as we see the big shift in education, the challenge is how to provide education that's relevant, that's engaging for both students and parents to feel like they can participate, and also for educators to have that unique connection that they need with their students, so they can inspire them to be more, to learn more, and become lifelong learners. And what we've had from teachers to date is that it's that cultural element really that becomes the starting point. That's what they're able to use to then connect to the students. And for parents, obviously, it makes their job a lot easier, because then they don't have to debate between, teaching them like family values when they're home and then switching to homework mode. You can kind of integrate some of the very values that you wanted to educate your child in the educational curriculum. So since we last talked, especially with the COVID-19 situation, a lot of schools have been scrambling to really get online learning resources and materials. And traditionally, there's a very long vetting process I know somebody spoke earlier around privacy, especially in the K-12 education space. Data privacy is a very big deal. So what we've been able to do is work with third-party channel distribution partners that do the vetting of applications, where we can submit our own privacy agreements, so school districts are able to review that before they can approve the use of the application in classrooms. I think Google, we're mostly on the Google Play Store. We're not on iOS because we wanted to reach as many devices as possible. So Google is also changing its family-friendly policy. They initially had a special category for apps that were kid-friendly or family-friendly. They are changing that to reflect.
Brian, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is really interesting. Can you tell us a little bit more about the applications? Are these films? Are they video clips?
Sure. So the media itself is it's in multimedia format. So we take audio, short films. If it's in a K-12 space, those are usually 3 to 10 minute sort of short films. And again, they could be on different topics, from language kind of films, arts reflecting kind of short stories. We've seen topics on like bullying, cyberbullying, privacy, kind of how do you introduce these conversations to children. Of recent, we're seeing a lot of conversations, a lot of animations specifically designed for COVID-19 sort of education around washing hands and social distancing. So the beauty is that with animation and film and really multimedia, you can like create unique experiences that are much more inclusive than the traditional textbook route.
Excellent.
The unique thing though is that we still rely on the teacher to be the facilitator. So our app is not a, throw the kid in front of the computer and let them be and you're done. We still create room for that play-based learning. So there's a lot of professional development as well on using storytelling, play-based learning, so that again, it's not boring education, but using stories to engage and educate.
So Brian, these stories come from all over the world, is that correct? In the person's indigenous language. So if I'm a Spanish teacher, I mean, is this how people would use it? Like, let's say I'm a Spanish teacher, I would take a story that somebody shot in Spain and I would play that on this app for my class full of students, and then we would talk about it. Is that how people are using it?
Yeah, for most people, they're using it again to sort of bring that inclusivity into the classroom. So you can have a textbook on US history, for example, which if you look at different curriculum from different states, they actually are very different in terms of what they teach. Like what they teach in Oklahoma will be different from what they teach in New York. And I think recently New York has this cultural relevance requirement in some of their educational standards. So a lot of states are beginning to recognize this value for redesigning curricula so that they are actually, I want to say, reflecting more of the truth or the reality. I know history is a bad example because history can be relative to who's telling the story. But I think that's part of the, I would use one other positive example. We're seeing also other schools reintroduce entrepreneurship kind of training in the classrooms. So a quick example there is then using, just like the first speaker mentioned, how do we use famous entrepreneurs or innovators from these communities? So if you're teaching entrepreneurship at CUNY College, CUNY schools in New York, how do we use New York entrepreneurs to help these students really understand how entrepreneurship is going on in their own communities? So these kind of local connections, these kind of cultural connections in learning help students see knowledge, whether it's science, if you talk about STEM, in Black neighborhoods, how do we use historically influential mathematicians that helped NASA, send that spaceship to the, how do we use those kind of influential figures in the education curriculum to really then help the students be more excited, be more engaged, and feel like they also could be those successful figures. So it's really the power is in the storytelling aspect of education, and we're constantly reaching out to more communities to be more inclusive. And I think that's what both parents and educators love about the product.
So Brian, how do you manage the quality of the content? Are you drawing from professional filmmakers, or are you relying on amateurs, people with cell phones? How do you make sure that the content is of a certain standard and
Right.
will also be absorbable by young students?
Yeah, so we've really, as we've become more education focused, we're really collaborating with schools and educators and really getting a feel of what they're looking for. What we're doing is by engaging on a district level, right? We're able to understand more what districts are looking for and be able to curate the backlog of content that really meets their needs. On an international level, for example, in Africa, we're partnering with the Association for African Universities in Higher Education. So again, by working with consortiums in academia that maybe don't have the technical expertise to design these systems, but they understand the kind of content they need, or they can produce some of this content, we are seeing that they are in turn becoming some of our largest partners in terms of content production. So that really helps us feel much safer knowing it's coming from the educational community.
Okay, Clint, do you have a comment?
I think that it would be really helpful for you to come in and talk about individual examples of how people are using it. Am I right in thinking that this is a very story heavy site? This site is about stories. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you need to have your own stories to help explain it, because I didn't really understand it. I barely even understand it at this point. And in today's day and age, where you have so little time for people to get what you're trying to sell them, or else they're on to the next, you need to be able to explain it quicker and more effectively. And I think that telling a few stories of how different users are using the platform would be helpful in getting across the way people can use it for themselves.
Sure.
Make sense?
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a great advice, Brian. I think you're doing great work. If people want to participate and learn more about your project, how do they find you?
Yeah, the fastest way is our social, which links to our website. So the social handle is iTrustCulture, at iTrustCulture, on both Instagram and Twitter. And the app name is Dream Galaxy. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. And
Yes. Time for a break.
time for a break. You're listening to Passage to Profit. We'll be right back.
And now we're back. So we have come. That was great, Clint. For those who can't see this, Clint just was very happy to be back.
I'm happy to be anywhere these days. Surviving is winning.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to summarize who we had presenting. So we had the one and only great Clint Arthur. You can find him by typing in CLINTTT. And he has clintarthur.tv.
Yeah, I'm going to give him a little boost here. Go to his programs. Go read his books. He has a lot of great wisdom and things that will help anybody who's running a business or an entrepreneur, kind of get out there and get noticed, and which can only help, right? So.
Yeah.
And we had Ash Sadiq with TrustScore.io to help you protect your information online, especially your financial information, credit cards, etc. And we had Dara Weislow with The Blurb Spot. That's BLURBB Spot, theblurbspot.com, where parents put in information into an app saying, hey, go to this place because it's great for kids that like to throw tantrums. No, I'm just kidding. Really, it's like it's wheelchair accessible, or they have a place where there's a changing table in the men's room, that kind of thing. and it's totally driven by the parents and the people using it. And then Brian Asingia with the Pearl Dream Inc. or Trust Culture. And he is gathering stories, incredible educational stories that kids actually want to listen to for teachers to use in their online classrooms.
That was a great summary, and we have absolutely, I think we've had great presenters. Clint, before we sign off here, any final words of wisdom for our audience?
You're on mute, by the way.
I would say that stories are essential. I mean, we've had, I'd say all three of the people here could benefit from having a good, tight, quick story about what you do and who you help and how. And then also, I think that especially in this day and age of Zoom, it's very important to understand that you need to be well lit and you need to frame yourself properly and have a background that is working for you. So those are my two big comments for today.
That's great. I mean, just purely coincidentally, a lot about trust today, right? That seems to be a theme that is running through Ash's and Brian's directly, their projects, and then and Dara's as well. And I mean, even Clint was
great point, yeah,
right out there in front. So I think trust is the word of the show, don't you?
Yes.
I'm not surprised, because there was a time when fear of public speaking was the number one fear among Americans. You know what the number one fear of Americans is today?
No.
The fear of government corruption. Look it up, Google it. What is the number one fear of Americans today? Fear of government corruption. People cannot trust our own government, let alone some guy who's trying to sell you a $99 a month subscription. You got very little chance of being able to be trusted with that. If we can't even trust the FBI or the CIA or our elected officials to be working on our behalf instead of on behalf of their own families, how are you going to sell somebody a $99 a month subscription? So this issue of trust, more important than ever.
That's right. I agree. So
well put.
Listening to Passage to Profit, and you may also be watching it too on our video channel. And we look forward to seeing you next time. You're listening to WOR 710, the Voice of New York. This is Richard and Elizabeth Gerhardt. Until next time.
Bye.